I was going to say thanks so much for having me, and then I attacked someone in the audience. Sorry. Thank you for having me. I'm going to also read from my phone. I don't have a pamphlet out today, so that I have no good reason for this. This is just sheer terror on my part. And what I was going to read has now not loaded. You need to get professionals to be. Okay. There is a slight backstory to this. It was commissioned as a response to the Rebecca riots that some of you may have heard of. They were, for those who don't know or weren't there, like me, an ancient person. They were during the 19th century and in Wales, where the English were trying to, as an English person I'm allowed to do that, were trying to set up tolls across the roads and saying that you cannot cross here with your horses, your cattle, your families. You can't walk through here if you don't pay this toll. These are roads that the people have been walking since there had been roads. They've made those roads. And this is one of the, I hate to say, rare examples of where the protest was successful and the toll gates were smashed and the English overlords and landlords they came round to the idea that they shouldn't be doing this. But what's interesting to me is the way in which the Rebecca riots were enacted. So rather than just people going up to the toll gates and smashing them, they went at night, first of all. Secondly, the men dressed as women, and the women dressed as women but wore beards, so that everyone came in the guise of this figure of Rebecca, and no one could tell who anyone was because they had kind of these fake beards on, or they were wearing these linen cloths. So this strange notion of villages and villages worth of Rebeccas, that regardless of an ascribed gender or a seen gender, were taking the streets back for themselves. So that's the kind of backstory for this. And some might say that we are pulled on our toughest boots and on cleanest petticoats. We ran combs through our beards and stepped out into an owl-hot, hoot-shot night. The very moment that we crossed the threshold of our homes, some might say that we felt the mud of the road pull at our boot soles. Imagine if this were true and the sound of something was something like that of smacking lips, as if the road was learning our language or tasting mischief on the air. It might be said that it was not a cold night, but there was a wind. A breeze pulled at the horsehair on our chins so that some of it grew too close to the lamps in our hands. It hissed and popped and frizzled, let's say, until we drew back and shushed one another. Let's say some of us frowned and some of us giggled and some of us adjusted unfamiliarities of cloth about our hips. Let's say we walked on. And some say we toasted corks on forks at our hearths that evening, rolling them and dipping them above the flames as our babies slept and as our wives and daughters rolled their eyes at our ribbons in our laps. There is no end of eye-rolling these days. Our horses roll their eyes in something like a fever. The magistrate rolls his eyes when we pull at our pockets to show their emptiness. We roll our eyes at the coarseness of our thumbs against the grain of the ribbon in our laps. We'll hardly be wearing your Sunday best, we might have said to our eye-rolling daughters. Everything you have in this world is just borrowed for a short time, we might have also told them, attempts at reassurance, and they might have sing-sang this wisdom back in chiding tones as they laid our dinner plates down before us. Less cheese than we would like, and the bread is hard. Some might say that a number of our wives and daughters pulled beards upon their necks and asked whether it was a style that suited, and we nodded, and whole households became sisters of a sort, and the sun rolled its eye and headed for bed. And some say that on such evenings we learned not just how many things can fit within a pocket and impede one's stride. It might be said that the fields that night were grey with moonlight, and each stalk of grass seemed furred with silver, appeared somehow heavier like the edge of a moth's wing. Moth does shout up. Say we stole through the night, or marched through the night, or hallooed, or trumpeted, or shrieked. Say that we broadened our broadening shoulders against the moonlight, picked up our skirts and took to the road two abreast. Maybe it will be told in time that we came from folk tales or folklore. Some might say that, like folklore, it ran in our blood or rose in our gall that evening. People might say that we were freed from swaddling, crimbled children who grew up raiding their parents' laundries and mangles for fresh linens, and we took to the streets, and some of our faces have changed for the night. One of us has a jaw daubed red with ochre and a forehead inked and sooted. Her eyes are not wild but steady, stepping with purpose. Our elbows touch one another, the rims of our bonnets sometimes soft clash together. Some might say that we met others on the road and fell into step with their tread. And there are words like trust, and there are words like trusts. There are nouns like extract, and there are verbs like extract, and some might say that we have hushed meetings by candlelight, and that we have swapped the words lie and line with lie and lame and tithed with tooth and nail until the air was strained through our lapping. We exchanged idioms and anecdotes, taking its toll, reaping what you sow, silk handkerchiefs from a sow's ear, and we learned new shorthands, and we taught the younger attendants how to use a percussion cap. We teach ourselves how to sign notes with new names. Some might say that we have mimed practice swings of arms in the looking glasses at home, privately, hefted sledgehammers to our shoulders to check that our smashing would not be checked by the small, creased matter of tight cloth across our chests. So here's an extract for laymen, pulled from the pulpit and the desire lines of Bible's concordances. And they blessed Rebekah, and they said unto her, Thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gate of those who hate them. And some might say that there was a lad in town who once boasted he could count to 1,000,000, and some might say that we filliped his ears and pulled his bonnet down further over his eyes, and it should be said that we were in good spirits, quite a few of us, made glad-mouthed with hope, but we cannot control the tale. We can control the saw's teeth against the wood, and whether we keep a good lookout, and we can make sure to count the tread of foot after foot along the roads that we know so well. So here's the call and response that's fit for Emmy's psalmistry or folktale. Say there's a shape of a woman bent against the moonlight, with her wide hands held above her eyes. Her voice is strong and seems perhaps unnaturally high. She might say, What is this, my children? There is something in my way, I cannot go on. And her children might form a ring around her, smoothing their beards and wringing their hands. And she, kicking a boot against the timber, Oh, my dear children, it is locked and bolted, what can be done? And we, readying our hammers and our swords, feeling for our firecrackers and raising our voices, our ranks seeming to swell as the words bloom in our throats, It must be taken down, mother. You and your children must be able to pass. And she, stepping back, Off with it then, my children, and there might, some say, be a surging forward, and an earnest full-blooded delight, and the sparks of our lamps and the stars might be like spittle, and the fizz of splinters might be all a-jumping in the sky. And some might say that our daughters gabble and shriek, that we were shrill in the streets and disported ourselves. They might use the word deschabelet and think that either we do not know what this means, or that such a term might be better make for their roads impassable, or their gates impossible to rend asunder. Some might say all manner of things, with all manner of words. Some might say our name Rebekah derives from clods of earth, but we will drown them out with our tin horns and the sound of breaking glass. Some might say that they saw Charlotte for Tom, and Nellie for Alan, and Miss Cromwell for Owen. Sticks and stones, we might say in answer, our ribboned caps flung high. Our horses carve smiles into the mud with their footfalls. Our coats are turned inside out, but our hearts are on our sleeves, and our glory will be in hearing the hinges of a gate say, quite precisely, as queerly clad and caddish lads make it crystal clear that this clodded path is ours to tread. Daughterly and unmistakably, some will say what they will say, and what we shall do will shake your rafters. So come then, let me tie this here about your waist and beneath your chin. Anticipate our hems at your gateposts, we say, and our rites of passage. Make sure you mark our words. Thank you very much.